Grime 101. Grime. Grime is a genre of music that emerged around the early 2000s in East London. It is difficult to pinpoint the exact moment the music emerged. Following the end of the old school garage and jungle eras, there was the era of MC-driven garage, where the lyrics were less about the rave and more about the roads. The most notable example of this was the So Solid era, and this was considered by many to be the crossover point between old school garage and grime music, which was yet to come.
There was like Pay As You Go, Heartless Crew and So Solid, and we was all kind of like similar kind of culture from completely different areas, and we really cared about MCs. Like Rinse in the first place had something like 6 DJs and 50 MCs. It was a joke. We tried to do the garage thing, but we'd done it wrong. So it's like, when you think about grime, it's probably like it's like an accidental birth. We didn't mean to make it, we just made it.
The transition from that to the music we now know as grime was complete with the introduction of the likes of Wiley and the Pay As You Go cartel, amongst others. Interestingly, for many years the music remained nameless until eventually the name grime stuck. Pirate radio. Pirate radio was simply an illegal radio station broadcasting without a license. The name pirate stems from the unlicensed nature of the broadcast, which were interestingly often set up on anchored ships and marine platforms in the 1960s. In relation to the emergence of grime, pirate radio was a crucial medium for artists and DJs to reach the masses and have their voices heard. Without pirate radio, it's unlikely that grime would have become the recognized genre of music that it is today.
Our only option was to start a pirate radio station, so we started Rinse, and it was like, I mean, at the beginning it was like me, Wiley, Slim, Target, a few others, do you know what I mean? And that's like 22 years ago that we started that.
Subs. Subs, short for subsidiaries, is a fee that DJs and MCs would pay to the management or person running the pirate radio station. Subs were often a weekly payment made prior to your weekly set or made on the day of your set. Often this would be a £5 payment per person, and this money would help management maintain the upkeep of the radio station premises and equipment.
Yeah man, as an older at that time, looking down on what you man was doing, I used to come there, like, often for me it was just about the subs. I'd come there and be like, how many man is in there? Right, all right, then cool, that's £180. Say nothing, boom, give me that, give the £10 to my man go buy the chicken box. It is what it is.
Often MCs would pay subs, but then bring through a bagger man to the set who had no intention of paying subs. Subs was always a contentious issue when it came to pirate radio, and at times pirate radio station owners would have trouble obtaining subs from certain MCs.
Like Killer and Beats are going to take a back seat because they're going to get the radio on and running, yeah, but they're losing it because people ain't paying them their subs. So I said to them, yeah, look, let me run this year and I'll get everyone subs. So basically everyone's turned up today, barring like 3 or 4 people. All the subs have come in, so not as much as I thought. We'll just see. I think £600-700 better than nothing. Quite true. Have you drunk your sub money? Have you got anything for me? What you got? All right, connection. You got subs. Real list subs. Real.
DTI. Some of you may know the term DTI from Skepta's popular instrumental, but DTI actually stands for Department of Trade and Industry. You may be wondering why this is relevant, but anyone who MC'd around that time will understand the role DTI played in trying to stop the music being played on pirate radio.
Tell you what, let's have a quick listen to them, see what's happening, eh?
I got new hits coming in the shops again. I hate the ends, my E5 niggas, henchmen, skirts are ready
What's that? Bloody larking, man. Tell you what, right? I know exactly where the transmitter is. I know exactly where the air views are. I'll get up there, quick one. Get down the cafe, have an early one, yeah?
Sweet, I'll wait here.
Lovely. Hurry up, mate.
DTI was sometimes able to detect where the pirate radio stations were via the signal from the aerial or noise complaints from residents.
Right, we've got a microwave receiver here. It's a low noise block, as it's called, and they're very line of sight, these things. They'll only point in straight lines, so this really gives us a clue as to where the studio is, and it will be directly along this line. In this particular case, it's probably coming from the block of flats over there in the distance.
Last night, 12:30 at night, noise nuisance, people, environmental health, the occupier, boom, 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 boom. You get me? Basically, because we're hot here, so we're just moving, like, we are well hot.
Often pirate radio stations would get raided by DTI with their equipment confiscated. This meant many stations would often move premises after a certain amount of time to avoid being detected. It was effectively a game of cat and mouse.
We've decided to take this station out of business. They're going to raid the studios and take down the transmitting equipment because they say that they've had numerous complaints from people saying that this station is interfering with their enjoyment of legitimate commercial broadcasters.
We've got a warrant to search this premises. Right. Yeah, because we believe it's acts as a legal radio station, right?
Okay. So just tell us what we've got here.
These two leads are of particular interest to us. There's a microwave transmitter which has just been established over near the wall. One of the leads here is the mains lead, so that's powering the transmitter device. The other one is the audio lead, which is being fed from the mixer, which is downstairs in the studio. It's essential because the transmitter is also feeding the horn antenna, which is rebroadcasting the signal from the studio to the main transmission site, which is just on the other part of London.
Hosting. Hosting was important in the early days of grime, and it is something that is rarely talked about today. The term MC actually stands for Master of Ceremonies, and in the dictionary it is described as someone who acts as a host. The term today is more synonymous with rap, grime or music in general, and that's reflected in the dictionary now, but originally the term was given for a host. In UK garage, hosting was really important, and if you couldn't host, you wouldn't be considered a top MC, as hosting was almost as important as spraying bars. A garage MC would let the beat breathe and only spray bars intermittently, allowing the DJ to mix for longer periods. When the MC wasn't spraying bars, they were hosting. A typical host would say things like, the host or MC was there to add to the vibes, with the DJ being just as important as the MC. Often the MC would actually spray bars about how great their DJ is. With garage it seemed to be all about the music and vibes, and the DJ and MC were both a supporting role on equal footing. As the music transitioned into grime, hosting became less important, although it was still of some importance in the early days of grime. A typical grime set on pirate radio would be 2 hours. For example, Deja Vu FM on Monday evening primetime would have Rough Squad from 6 PM to 8, Nasty Crew 8 to 10, and East Connection 10 to 12. The first hour of a set would almost always be purely vocals, so the DJ would play the latest vocal tracks, not instrumentals, and the MCs would take turns in hosting the first hour, or one MC would do this. Every pirate radio station would have a phone, and the MC would encourage texts and missed calls from listeners.
Selector 07950 888 615. We got a massive locked in, it's total package.
After a missed call, the MC would give you a shout out using the last 3 digits of your phone number, and listeners would text in requesting a certain person to be shouted out, and the MC would oblige. This was the sort of thing an MC would do for that first 1 hour of the set, whilst vocal tracks were being played.
Yeah, big up Craze on this one. Old tight Louis or Pinocchio.
Where are you? Looked in the magazine, but I couldn't find the new era tape.
Old tight the slew them tongue.
You're just
tight Matty.
Can't find your save when I clash.
We got Wafer.
Mine.
We got Chronic.
Yeah, that's fine. Your voice is high pitch. Hear it all the time, but so what? I still get
wheels on my line.
Say when I clash, I don't mind.
07784768465.
Still get wheels off my line.
The second half of the set was straight bars, and as grime progressed, it became more about straight bars on sets and raves, and the hosting element slowly faded away. Hosting was a skill, with some MCs being naturals at it, and for others it was just about bars. Sends. Sends are integral to the grime culture. Sends are basically the equivalent of disses in rap music. Ascend is when one MC calls out, disrespects, or mentions the name of another MC in a negative manner.
I ain't scared of J-A-Y-K, ain't in the army. Muslim but he eats bacon sarnies. Orders cook when he walks in Calvary. Going on sick and I'm going on balmy. Round 1 year and he ain't got a heartbeat. But now he's just like chili con carne. Come on.
Indirects. An indirect is when an MC sprays a bar that could potentially be perceived as Ascend, but is debatable. So the bar might not mention a person by name, but it might reference something about a person or an incident that could make another person believe they are talking about them.
Moment of silence for every rapper out of a deal. Incapable of finishing what they started. Left the pizza boys who thought I won't deliver again. You say you're gonna be around, let's see who isn't again. Fire.
A man said, moment of silence for every rapper out of a deal. When there's a moment of silence, what does that mean has happened?
It's like death, man. I mean,
death, somebody's dead, innit? So cool. Man said, I left the pizza boys that thought I won't deliver again. You say you're gonna be around. We'll see who is in the end. Who else in England has a song called Pizza Boy?
Salute Meek Mill.
Right! Cool. Me and Meek Mill.
A bar could also be perceived as an indirect, simply because an MC spat an aggressive bar directly after another MC passed them the mic. This was particularly relevant in the golden era of grime, where you would go to a set and what another MC said on the mic after you could create a situation or potential clash. Often the MC would just be spraying their normal bars, but the culture was geared towards MCs being alert and suspicious of other MCs' intentions on a set, which meant a lot of clashes occurred simply because one MC felt a way about the way the previous MC ended their bar.
Carbine for an informer, cop tier ends and corner per corner. I'm about 6'1", but you see my machine makes me look a little piece taller.
Calm down with the huffing and puffing and all the bluffing. You ain't on nothing. You're a sausage, stuffing. MC Donald, MC Muffin, super bad. You're an MC loving. I don't really care what an MC does or doesn't, but all of a sudden you've all got opinions like your name was Joe Budden. Better calm down with the R and the numbing. I'll jump out of the dark and stun him. I'll do it like our Sharvin done it. 4 in the net, that's bless. I'm buzzing, but I ain't a red. I'm a hammer. I'm used to losing, but I ain't snoozing. Good sleep, but I gotta climb this ladder. Could be a star, mate. Listen.
Jeez! Man is never saying that bar after me.
Oh, it's not that, it's not that. Oh, is it that? Corn. Yeah. Listen. Try and mock it. Yeah. We'll find out what happens when
I don't even like telling MC to suck your mum, but suck your mum, rude boy. When I do it and done, rude boy. Don't act like you're some rude boy. Nobody could with me. I'm a boss, nobody can try recruit me. Back then, listen. Wicked.
A man could come in and say a mad thing after you, fam. That was like what we used to live for on radio. That's what you used to write bars for. That was the whole, we never used to write bars for songs. We used to write bars for radio.
I think
Clothing, attire, garms was an important part of the grime culture. Following on from garage, where the music was more about vibes and the ravers were suited and booted, grime brought a more aggressive energy and mood, and the clothing reflected that. At the back end of garage, where it began to evolve into grime, people would wear designer brands like Machino, Iceberg History, Armani, and so on, as well as the ultimate status symbol, which was the Avrex jacket. Avrex jackets were expensive and would cost roughly between £350 and £500. £500 in the year 2000 is the equivalent of £860 today, so if you had an Avrex back then, people would take note.
Must have seen that lethal B-boy the other day. Must have trust man, one's got Avrex, man thinks he's rough. Blood, either idiot.
Fast forward a couple years later, and grime had fully emerged. The music was dark and moody, and the clothing reflected that, as it became more casual and, for want of a better word, more grimy. Popular choices of clothing were academics tracksuits, New Era caps and Air Force Ones. The clothing had an American streetwear influence, with touches of UK and London culture sprinkled in. Selector. In garage and early grime, you would sometimes hear the MC say selector or my selector. The selector is simply the DJ who selects the music to be played.
Mix it up now with the fader. Mix it up now with the fader.
Reload. A reload originally known as a rewind, is the act of a DJ rewinding the track or instrumental and playing it back from the beginning. The history of the rewind can be traced as far back as 1968 in Kingston, Jamaica, and as Jamaicans migrated to the UK, the rewind came with them. The rewind was part of Jamaican sound system culture and featured heavily in dancehall clashes. The rewind became part of UK garage culture, and often the MC would call for the DJ to rewind the track if the track or lyrics got a strong crowd reaction.
Rewind. When the crowd say ball, selector. Rewind. When the crowd say ball, selector.
This continued as the music transitioned to grime, but the term rewind was eventually phased out and replaced with the name reload or wheel up.
Hey yo, it's the ultimate selector. And the mic of an selector will be greater. Boom, see who wants to reload. Hey, selector. With a reload, that we check.
Within grime, a reload can occur for a variety of reasons. If the DJ brings in a big instrumental, reload.
Listen.
If the DJ brings in a big instrumental and the MC capitalizes with the right bar for the mix, reload.
When you think about flexing, shut him out, don't get yourself involved. Now be a case that won't get slaughtered. Okay, this guy fits on brick, okay.
If an MC spits with a certain amount of relentless aggression, reload.
I'm a king, lyrically big, you want to clap it, you're gonna get dropped in. Truth in the button when I bumped him and in the door says truth in the button when I bumped him and in the door says right where I bumped. Don't really care if he goes to gym, get put down by the lead like Torrens, I'll kick his own in. Anybody's boring when I'm boring, they're gonna get fool.
If an MC says something funny, reload.
I'm gonna hammer and chisel him, I'm gonna break him apart, every last bit of him. Say you went big man Fred, you went youth offenders, for littering. You won't get back in
If an MC says something lyrical or just generally cold, reload.
I raise the toast to the sun and the gift of the morning. I've been hurt, never be sicker than talking. I'll insert the USB sticker and install him. So for once, hold your tongue cause it can't be important. Your bars are just boring.
Heard they're scheming, praying what car I got. I'll run my blade for your Zara top. Half a box, get rid of half your squad. Save the other half and bark it off. Money so large, got masked and guap. Team so solid like Arby's.
These are some of the reasons amongst others. Reloads are integral to grime culture, and getting a reload remains extremely important to grime MCs and fans alike. Clash. A clash is the equivalent of a battle in rap music. Because grime originates from live performance, i.e. the rave or the radio, it lends itself to clashing as the music is impromptu and off the cuff. Anything can happen, unlike many other genres that are more synonymous with the recording studio. The live performance element remains integral to grime culture, but recording and making music has become increasingly important in grime over the years. Because of this, more and more musical beats within grime are being settled in a booth rather than on the stage or the radio. High-profile examples are Wiley vs Stormzy and P Money vs Dot Rotten. These written and recorded back and forths can be considered as war dubs. Some might refer to them as sends and replies, but it wouldn't be a clash until the two MCs go at it back to back in a live setting. For example, Wiley and Dirty Dukes had a back and forth via war dubs, but the actual clash was when they went back to back in a live setting.
Yo,